Now, everyone, let's put our hands together and give a warm welcome to our moderator, Eric Miles.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for those of you who are joining us here on campus and for those of you that are watching us online. My name is Eric Miles, and I'm the course director of Mastery, as well as negotiation and deal making for the entertainment business master's degree program here at Full Sail University. And I'm hosting this session today titled Chase Your Dream with Flexibility and Fluidity. Now, I would like you guys to put your hands together for our panelists. Go ahead, put them together. Let's hear it.
Thank you.
Yes. Right here next to me is Billy Nettles. Now, I want to read this because this is important. These two have done so much stuff, I had to write it down to make sure I get everything in. Billy graduated from the Recording Arts program in 2000 here at Full Sail. He's an audio engineer from Miami, Florida, now living in Northern California. As a logistics and production manager for the Lux Productions, he averages around 100 shows per year throughout the Bay Area. He manages sound and event production for corporate clients like Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, Target, and TEDx, as well as concerts and social events from Michael Franti, Chris Cornell, Jay Leno, Vintage Trouble, and Jewel. He began his career mixing audio at Walt Disney World and has been in multiple facets of entertainment industry for over 25 years. So again, Billy, guys, how about it? And next to Billy, Charity Lomax. Yes, Charity. Charity enrolled at Full Sail with a dream of being a front-of-house engineer. After graduating from the RA program in 1994, she moved to LA with the hopes of working for a sound company. She took a job as a runner at a recording studio, Westlake Audio, and ended up spending 9 years there, 6 of those years as their booking manager. Realizing she no longer had a dream to be an engineer, she discovered that she wanted to be on tour. An opportunity came her way to become a tour manager for a new artist, and that one job, right, has led to touring with the Eagles, Van Halen, Aerosmith, Janet Jackson, and many others. After years on the road, an opportunity came her way to be an artist relation rep for the top in-ear monitor, JH, which is Jerry Harvey Audio. Once again, she jumped at the opportunity and is currently enjoying her new career, so give it up for Charity, guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, as you know, the name of this is Chasing Your Dream with Flexibility and Fluidity. Now, what does that mean? Well, I think we have to start, and I think my first question that I'm going to pose to you guys today is, we have to start with that passion that's within all of us, right? And it's within all of us when we are children, you know, with that thing that just sparks us even as kids. Before we learn about the world and before we hear about all the things that we shouldn't do, because the one thing that I think all of us and everybody out there listening and everybody in this room today will agree, when you say you're getting in the entertainment business, the question that everybody has for you that's not in it always says this: what's your backup plan? Right? I don't think accountants get that question. You know, I'm going to school for accounting. I don't think anyone's well, what's your backup plan if accounting? But all of us in the entertainment industry, for some reason, we always get that question: what's your backup plan? But if you're true to yourself and you've always had that passion within you, then you don't even think about the backup plan because there's no alternative to going for what you want to do. So that in mind, I want to ask you this question. What was your childhood dream? What was your passion? What did you desire to become? If you can think about it as a kid, what was it? And we'll start with Charity first.
You know, I had a huge desire to travel. So I think it all sort of morphed from that, but I've always loved, I wanted to be a part of making music. And, well, I can make music and travel, or be a part of music and travel. Well, touring makes sense. But I was just a diehard, like ridiculously obsessive music listener, and I still am. And so I just wanted to be a part of it, and it just took me a few years to figure out what part I was going to play.
That's awesome. How about you, Billy?
Awesome. Let's see, if I go back to when my kindergarten teacher asked me that question, my job that I wanted was to be a millionaire by 30.
That was your job.
That did not happen. Nope, not at all. I was a music fan from the get-go, and I tried to play a bunch of instruments. I was terrible at practicing, but I played violin, viola. I did a little bit of cello and skipped that, went right to upright bass, and then back to cello. So,
Right.
I was steered towards athletics. I played football up into college until I got injured. And that opened my eyes to the world of entertainment and getting back to music. So it kind of came circle all before I ever, became a fully vested adult.
It's amazing how like sometimes we'll take left turns and right turns in our lives, but sometimes we always end up back where our childhood passion was. Yeah. We find a way to get back there, So moving on, and you grew up and you found yourself here at Full Sail. So the question I have for each of you is, when you got here, well, why did you choose here, first of all? And then when you got here, did Full Sail enhance that dream that you had? Did it change as you learned more about the industry and being here and being educated? Did it change it?
How I got here on a radio ad, but I got here and was just completely blown away. And I was just so excited to be learning because there was no place else. At least I had searched as much as there was a search engine back then, as much as I could, trying to find a school to go to. So when I finally found this place and I got down here, I was just so excited that I'm finally, because I'd gone to college part-time and took like the fun classes. I took photography, like every photography class that there was, but I didn't want to go to a school and learn. I don't need to know how to do algebra to mix a song. So it wasn't that I was trying to find a shortcut. I just was trying to find some place that could teach me that. So when I got here, I was just like, oh my God, I'm actually learning stuff that I want to know. And my mind never changed while I was here. I still was like, I'm going to be a front house engineer.
That's awesome.
That is.
Billy?
Again, it started back with the football injury, and I started floundering in the normal college. I lost my way, and I was trying to figure out what am I going to do with myself now that I'm not going to go play for the Miami Dolphins. That may have never happened. I don't know.
Backup plan.
Cut to a year later in school, grades kind of starting to drop, and I heard about Full Sail, so I came down and did what was then that current version of the behind the scenes tour, and I was done, sold. I'm in. This is everything I want to know. Everything I've always been interested in is how to make that record. But I didn't have the financial support to do it, so I found an alternative path I started working at Disney World, and I got behind the boards there. I started learning on the job until I got myself in a good enough financial spot to be able to get the loans to get here. But my drive was coming to this school, and I wasn't going to let anything get in the way of that.
And then when you got here and you were in the program, did you, just like Charity, say all straight through, didn't deviate from your dream? It just locked in?
As I said, I fortunately was able to learn a lot on the job as far as live sound went. So now I wanted to get that studio reference. I wanted the science and the technical part of everything I'd worked myself up to. So.
It's amazing because we've kind of danced around that issue, and we say, I tried traditional college, I tried normal school. You both kind of said that. And I say to my students a lot, I say, what is normal? Because we say Full Sail, not traditional, it's not normal. But, I always challenge my students. I say, well, give me a one-word equivalent to the word normal. What is it? And you know what words I hear? Average, boring, right? So then I say, who wants to be normal, right? So those of us that don't fit in that box thrive here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thrive here, and that's an awesome thing. So moving into, what I want to point out what he just said, and I think everyone should take note of this because this is going into the topic. You said, I couldn't afford it, so I had to come up with an alternative means to get here, right? So that comes up with that flexibility and fluidity, right? We have that aspiration, we have that thing that we want to do, but we have to think of different avenues to get to that goal, right? So that being said, how important is networking?
Oh, huge. Like we were talking earlier, I can pinpoint, I got one job and then I was out of a job and then someone that I met, and these were just people, and it wasn't even calculated. It was just like, I went into the production office, we're opening up for Christina Aguilera, and you just go in and say hello. And, like those little things may not seem like networking, but they go so far. So I just, without even pointedly trying to network with someone and just being kind and saying hello or lending a hand, that's gotten pretty much all the work that I've gotten has been someone recommended me or someone remembered me and gave me an opportunity.
And education is obviously key, but when you're out there and after you have that, I always tell folks, I say, the resume, the education, it gets you the interview, but you get you the job. And how do you do that? Is through your networking and through your ability of communication, right? So for you, how important was networking in your life?
Man, it's crucial to what we do. And, kind of piggybacking on what she's saying, you're sitting with your future collaborators, your bosses, your entrepreneur that's going to fund your project. They're all in this room with you or at this school with you. You never know who you're sitting next to or across from in the library when you're studying. It's those interpersonal skills are really what opens up. The resume might get you in the door, but how you react in the interviews and how, they're going to watch you walk in the door. They're going to see, does he smile? Does she frown at people? They want to know that you're going to mesh with their team. So that's why it's usually never going to be you're hired 100%. It's going to be an internship or there's a trial period a lot of times, because your ability to interact with your fellow humans and treat them well and treat yourself well is going to show.
Yeah, it's interesting. I equate school to investment, like an investment, right? So when you invest in something, if you invest in a stock, and let's say you throw $100 down, if you get $70 back, is that a good investment or a bad investment? That's a bad investment. You lost 30% of your money. So I say to the students, look at your grade as the return on your investment. So you want to get close to 100 as possible because you want your money back, right?
Right.
And then I say, how do you make a profit? And what you guys just said, everyone I've ever talked to that's come out of this school that's successful, every single one of them, networking is key. That's your profit while you're here. Get in and get as many of these types of events and talk to as many people as possible. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know you hear it all the time from people, but right here are two people that are saying, yeah, I wouldn't really be here if I didn't talk to people. One job led to another, and I shook hands, and I did my... networking is so important. It's crucial, and that is your profit. That is, once you make your money back by getting your A's, right? And then how do you make a profit? It's the people that you meet and shaking those hands. So upon graduation, so let's move into this. What was your first professional gig? And was it in the field you wanted it to be in? And did it lead to another job, or did you change direction? Charity.
My first professional job was at a sound and video company in Virginia. And it was they did the stuff that I wanted to do because they did do sound and they did send systems out. But I worked there for a few months and I realized that it wasn't going to take me to the scale of what I wanted to do. I wanted to travel around the world doing that type of stuff. And I knew that company couldn't do that. So I left. And I moved to LA.
And you moved to LA. Now, did you move to LA? Because a lot of people, when they're moving locations, are like, I got to save up money. I've got to have this. I got to have all that. Or are you just like, I'm going?
Nope. First thing I did, I called one of my old classmates. And I'm like, because he lived in LA. And I'm like, hey, I'm coming out. can I crash with you until I find a place? And he's like, absolutely. And it was him, another grad from our class. They were both roommates. And I ended up living with them for quite some time. And then we all sort of split off and did our own thing. But yeah, that was the first call. And that's what I've been telling students here. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? Where are you going to go after you graduate? I'm like, well, you need to get together with some like-minded people. That doesn't have to be the same field. But you guys get together if you're all going to go to LA and be roommates. Like, that's the easiest thing you could do while you're here.
Now, when you moved out to LA, how long was it until you got your first job?
7 days.
7 days.
So I went out there, and I had some interviews set up. I called the company that I wanted to work for. They weren't hiring at the time. And my roommate came home. He was working at a recording studio. He goes, somebody just quit. The job is yours if you want it. And I was like, I don't want to work at a studio, but I'm going to have to pay rent at some point. So I went and interviewed. They told me I didn't have to give them an answer on the spot. And then, maybe a few hours later, I got home. They're like, we need to know now. And I was like, well, I can always quit if I don't like it. And I ended up staying.
So that job, what was the company?
Westlake Audio.
So that was the company you worked with for 9 years.
Yeah.
When you got that job, okay, now I think this is important for everyone to hear this. When you got that job, now you are an educated woman with a degree, and you had prior professional experience because you worked at another professional gig in Virginia. What did you do there when you first started?
I was a runner.
And what did a runner have to do?
You had everything. Go get food. Once the sessions were done, you had to clean the building. And this building is big, and there's 2 of them. So there was one runner in one building, and one worked the other building. And you had to clean the entire building, top to bottom, 100%. Every single day, that's what the runners did, on top of all the other things that you had to do.
So that's like picking up trash.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everything. Picking up trash, mopping the floor, cleaning the toilets, making sure there's coffee, going to get food.
So you have a
gear.
degree, prior professional experience, and you were cleaning toilets.
Yep.
So were you discouraged, or were you like, I'm in my element, this is it?
I loved that place.
See?
It's really weird because I've thought about it a lot lately. Like, I never, even though I had a goal, I was never obsessing about getting there. I was just working. I knew that if I wanted to be an assistant engineer at Westlake Audio, I had to go through 8 levels of being a runner in 2 other positions. So you might as well just enjoy it while you're doing it, and eventually you're going to get there.
How about you, Billy?
Yeah.
When you came out, what was your first professional gig?
I went right into a studio locally here in Orlando. Like I said, I was already working at Disney doing audio, and once I had the degree, and I was like, all right, it's time to do my internship. I cut the cord on Disney. I was like, thank you. It's been a great 10 years. I'm going into the studio, and I got my internship, and very similar tact. I painted the studio manager's office, took out trash, cleaned bathrooms. I did a lot of extra stuff. I walked by the tape closet one day, and dating myself there, we had this
little analog going on.
Right?
24-track tapes. We had DATs, ADATs, all of it. And man, it was just a wreck. And I was just like, you know what? Nobody can find anything in here. I don't have anything going on for this next 4-hour block. All the studios are blocked up. I've got nothing going on. I sat there and organized the tape closet because it needed to be done. And it wasn't told to. It just was, I'm going to ingratiate myself. I'm going to be valuable. I'm going to be necessary. And if I see something, I'm doing it. So
That's that flexibility.
Yeah.
That fluidity, How important are those words, flexibility and fluidity, to you in the field you're in? How important is that? So, we're here for that reason. There was something intriguing that these students are here. What was it, and what is it about those words that is so important to this industry? I'll let you continue.
For me, it's running up against an obstacle like the word no, which is just, your next opportunity. No, don't let it stop you. Find your way around, under, above, through. I'm now back into live audio. I do live events out in California, and we're throwing proposals at companies. They want to come in with a bid. I want to throw, a couple $100,000 of audio at a show, and they're like, but we only have 10. All right, we'll make it work. We're going to find a way to get you the best possible sound we can. we all run into no's, and we're always going to run into no's, and it's just how you can deal with that with grace and fluidity of not being stopped, just finding your next path, you know.
I also think that sometimes, especially if you're going to do freelance work, you got to be very, very flexible. And sometimes you're going to maybe go take another gig doing something else just because you have to fill in a gap. So, and that's just survival. And anytime you can expand your knowledge base and your experience is just going to make you that much more valuable. So, and a lot of times these days too, especially on the road, you'll see job listings like, I need a production manager that can mix, or I need this person. Like they want a 2-for-1 basically. So the more you know, the more opportunities are going to come your way.
And what does it mean when you hear the words be open or take chances? Let the process develop organically. What do those mean to you, Billy?
For me, it's being open. Okay, I'm a recording engineer by degree. I've got a live sound background. They need me to call a show. They need me to do lights. They need me to set up a video wall. Okay, I'm doing it. You know, I'm not saying no to you. I'm going to make sure that we've got you covered. And that's been the great thing with this current position I'm in now. I wear a lot of hats, and you know, it's like for an audio engineer, I do a lot of lighting, and I set up video walls from the actual assembly of the wall to running the switchers and whatnot. So I've gotten to learn so much more and become so much more than just the audio guy, you know. And I lost track of what we were talking about.
That's okay. That's okay. I do have a question for you. That's it's still in the vein of the flexibility and fluidity. You were at the recording studio for 9 years. Then and you were the booking manager, so you were sitting in an office, right? And you were doing work. You went from that, and it's a stable job, and I'm sure after 9 years and you're making some good money. Why go on tour? I mean, what was that like? And you know, I mean, obviously you're taking some cuts here and there.
Yeah, there were some cuts. But when you're young and you're single, you can do that. You know what? I kind of felt, even though I was very, very happy where I was, every time, and it was over those last few years I was there, I'd go to a show, and I just kind of had this, oh man, I'm not a part of this. And it kind of bummed me out. And I didn't have any regret that I didn't do that, but there was just sort of like this, a little bit of sadness. And so that's why when the opportunity came my way to go on tour, like I walked away from one of the top recording studios in the world, actually, and it didn't even faze me. Like I just knew that it was going to be okay. And I think also having a boss that told me I could come back whenever I wanted to didn't hurt.
But let's be clear, so they know, it wasn't like you left this huge recording studio to go on tour with somebody like Janet Jackson.
Yeah, no. I was on tour with somebody you've never heard of before, who was opening up for Clay Aiken. But yeah, I mean, it was only 3 months. It was only 3 months worth of work. So he's like, I would love to have you do this, Charity, the manager, but it's only 3 months worth of work. And I was like, I don't care. And that's before my boss told me that I could come back. I was like, I don't care. I'll figure it out after that. And didn't have to.
But because of that, and taking that chance and following your I guess, gut instinct or that intuition that you had inside of you, right after you got off tour with her, what happened?
After I got off tour with her, that manager ended up managing the Pussycat Dolls. So he was like, okay, now I'm just going to roll you over to this. And I ended up touring with them and working for them, doing many. Now you want to talk about flexibility. I was the wardrobe girl. I was the production assistant. I was the everything because they were a new band. And so I ended up working for them for about 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just it's the taking the chance, taking the risk, right? Possibly facing some adversity, possibly facing some failures, but staying true to what you want to do and knowing that if you keep that path, if you focus and you keep driving, the next door will open up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So from the outside looking in, obviously we're here. You guys are pretty successful. But have you ever faced rejection once you left here? And if so, how did you deal with it, or how should we deal with it? Because, there are some people, I always say that for every great movie or for every fantastic song, Grammy Award-winning song, or, Academy Award-winning movie, or Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize, there's one that we didn't hear of because somebody got rejected, and it's right here, and they're afraid to let it out. Mm-hmm. So for you two, since you're here and we're looking at you guys, you're here, you're the successful people. Have you faced rejection, and how did you face it?
Right out of Full Sail. I actually started obviously applying for jobs before I graduated, and I applied at Showco, which is like at the time one of the biggest sound companies there were. It was Clair Brothers and Showco were like the two big things. Clair Brothers, it was like don't even try to get a job there, but Full Sail had a relationship with Showco. They wouldn't even call me back. Like I had good grades, I had letters of recommendation from one of the top touring engineers wrote my letter of recommendation. Wow. And crickets. And other people from my class were getting offers, and I was like, my grades are better than them. Why am I not getting this opportunity? And I let it go and just, I was like, well, I didn't really want to work for them to begin with. I would rather have worked for Electrotech. But still, just the fact that they wouldn't even have a conversation with me. Yeah. And I just sort of let it go, but then it sort of reared itself back when I actually met the person that didn't give me the opportunity. So several years later, Full Sail had an event at Westlake. We hosted it, or Westlake hosted it. And the guy from Showco was there because it was during the AES. And I went up to him and I'm like, you probably don't remember me. I said, and I told him just what I told you. I'm like, and you wouldn't even call me back. And he was like, well, you got to be able to move a 250-pound cabinet. I'm like, you don't know what I'm capable of. That's right. And then I just turned around and walked off.
That's right. That's right. Because what comes around goes around, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about this industry too is, the person that you're working for could be the person that you're going to be employing at some point. So it always pays to be kind to people, period. But you never know what position you're going to be in or what position they're going to be in.
That's right. That's right. How about you?
I'm going to cut to when I moved to California.
Can you tell he's in the video and audio? I'm going to cut to.
I got to do it all. I was facing a little bit of burnout. I was tired of the pop music world and where I was feeling with things. So the opportunity came to go out to California, and I took it without a job. And I said, all right, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to start, pulling any contact I have, calling friends. Hey, do we know anyone here? Do we know anyone there? Send out cold resumes, just, you don't know me, but I want to work for you, just let me in. And a lot of that, not one peep came out. And fortunately, someone at Skywalker Ranch that knew someone hooked me up with a sit-down meeting with a very well-known engineer who only works for one director now. And he took 4 hours out of his day to sit with me. Wow. He's like, these are the things you need to do. Here's who you need to talk to. You need to start interning again. You got to do this. I'm already, I'm however many thousands of dollars in student debt, and I've been working for years. I got to start over again. I'm really tired. I need to step back, and I had to stop and take a break for a minute and recalculate and look at everything and try and figure out where my resiliency was, where I was going to come back. And so I went and worked in a restaurant, and I moved to Napa. I'm going to go work at a winery. And then all of a sudden, because of my background, they're like, can you handle this event for us? Yeah, I can do the event, but it was, in a weird roundabout way, that was the rejection, was not getting those letters and being forced to look at myself and get to know me again and see what I really wanted, and I was able to take doing a couple of odd events at a winery into working for this production company and becoming an asset. So, I was turning that negativity and that downside back around again and getting myself back in there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I always liken it to, it's not my favorite of the Godfather movies, Godfather 3, but it's the most quotable line from it, though. It's like the entertainment industry, I always say, we don't choose it, it chooses us, right? And so it's like in the Godfather 3, he's like, every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. You know, it's like when you were working at the winery, they're like, hey, by the way, can you do this event? And you're like, yeah. And all of a sudden, that passion from when you were a kid starts to boil itself back up, and then you realize, this is what I'm meant to do. This is why I'm here, you know? And even through that rejection, I always tell people, and agree with me or disagree with me, but I always say this, art, and all of us are artists, okay? We think of artists, we just think of, you know, someone painting or a guitar. Artists, when you were a tour manager, when you were an artist, because what you were doing, there's an art to that, right? There's some substance to that. I say to people, art is subjective. It is not objective. Objective is a standard where everybody says, agrees with it. A subjective is a personal opinion. It's either it is or it isn't. You know, and I'm an attorney, so I'll say an objective law is 55 miles an hour, right? You go over 50, you really can't fight that in court. You were doing 65. How are you going to defend that? You're done. You can't defend that. But if it's a subjective law, that's why you have jurors, and they have to decide, and you hear evidence on both sides, right? And every one of you out there right now, whatever you're creating, if somebody doesn't like it, it's just their opinion. It might sound like a rejection, but it's not. It's their opinion. I say, what won the Grammy Award for Best Song this year? Silence, right? But it won the Grammy Award, but there will be people that, I don't know. And then I'll say, is your favorite song? No. Well, it won Best Song. It should be everybody's favorite song. Or Best Picture of the Year. What was it? Oh, did you like it? Did you see it? First of all, half people didn't see it. And then the people that saw it would be like, yeah, it's all right. Or no, it wasn't my favorite, but it won Best Picture of the Year. So when somebody doesn't like your work, so what? As long as you're true to yourself and you have passion and you're within you and you're able to move and be flexible and fluid like we're talking about, you continue down that path. As long as you're happy, man, you keep moving forward, right? So, at your lowest of the low, after you got out of here and you hit a low, you know, everybody goes through ebbs and flows in their life. Your low it's all about perspective, right? Your low might be somebody else's, might be their high. But at your low, right? At your low, what kept you moving forward? What kept you saying, this is still what I want to do? I know, you know, I'm crashing on somebody's couch. I don't really have a job right now. Yeah. And I could easily go get this job over here, but I got to keep moving. I got to do this. What kept that for you?
Just faith. Like when the Pussycat Dolls broke up, I realized that I'd only really worked for one artist. And so I was only tied to that artist, and a lot of people only knew me as working for them. And so I had to figure it out. I had to make contacts, I had to start calling people, and I was not working. I didn't work for many, many months. I mean, probably, if I thought about it, maybe 6 or 7 months. Think about that, not getting a paycheck for 6 or 7 months. And have my own place. And I just kept, you know, sending out those emails, kept reaching out. People were actively trying to help. And I knew that it was going to be okay. And I just had faith that something was going to come up, and eventually it did.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you?
Well, kind of like what I was talking about, the loss of drive and motivation for a minute there, where I had to step back and look and really analyze myself to say, is this what I want? Audio for film is not what I want. I just was tired of what I was doing, you know, and it was a little bit of getting to know me, you know, and saying, all right, this is a hard part, you know, because I'm voluntarily stepping away, you know, to re-energize, reconnect, look at who, you know, what do I want to do, you know. So.
But both of you have made statements that I think is really familiar to a lot of folks that I've spoken with that are considered successful in the field, and that is, you were in a place where you were comfortable. And I'm not saying that there aren't successful people that stay in that comfortable spot, but you were in a position, both of you, where you had a stable job, you had a stable income, but something within you was like, but that's not it. I gotta move on. I gotta do something else. I mean, you're at the studio for 9 years, you're probably in there pretty good. You know the ins and outs. You've become the master of that. You both became the Neo of where you were at, right? You were the one. But you decided to leave. Why? And doing that, what was the knowing the thing that everything was going to be okay?
I don't know. I just felt, I've always been pretty self-aware. And I'm all about being happy. And like I said, I was happy. There was I don't know, I don't even want to call it sadness. There was just sort of like this thing that it was like something was missing, that there was something else that I wanted to do, basically. Like I'd hit the glass ceiling. And I was really at the top of my game. And I just didn't feel like there was anything else I could do there, to be quite honest. Because at that point, like I had learned so much, I had met so many people, and I had done so many things. And then it was like, okay, well, now what? Like now I'm just sort of sitting here and it's just the same thing every day. Okay, what do you want your tape machine lined at? Like, so I just felt like I'd kind of capped out. Couple that with the fact that, I'd go to a show and I'd be like, oh my God, like, like, why didn't I keep doing that even though this was really cool and so on and so forth. And I don't know, I just felt like it was going to be okay, or I would figure it out. And you can do that when you don't have responsibilities, other than paying your rent. You don't have anybody else that you're responsible for. So I was fortunate in that all I had to worry about was me, and I was going to figure it out if I had to.
I think we both came from that spot of lack of fulfillment, I guess, would maybe be it, where it just wasn't feeding your soul right or enough, and trying to find that happy place and what was going to bring you the happiness.
Because that's so important. I think if you guys get out of this, what they're saying is some people get locked into a job and they stay there and they're afraid to leave because they've put so much time and effort into it. It's like, if I walk away, then I'm a failure. You're not. You're not a failure. You've reached your pinnacle at that spot, and it's time to move on. And it's okay to walk away from that. It's okay. Success isn't measured by money. It's not measured by length of time that you're in a position. Success is here. It's, do you feel fulfilled or not? Because if the money is the driving force, you'll never be fulfilled, because money is not the thing that moves us. It's the enjoyment of it. It's the passion of it, right? It's you get caught up into a project that you forget to eat.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're like, oh my, it's been like 10 hours. I didn't even eat, because you're so enthralled and working so hard in that and enjoying it so much you forget to eat. And I think that's what propels us and moves us forward.
I've literally said, I'm getting paid to do this? Really?
I've taken jobs and didn't know how much I was getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, because there's like, oh, so what are you getting paid right now? I'm like, whatever. And then he ended up paying me more. But yeah, I've done quite a few jobs and never asked how much I was getting paid.
And it's because
I don't do that anymore. But
that's early on.
That's a whole other chat.
Most creatives are very passionate about their careers, right? So how important is the work-life balance? And has it changed as you've grown?
For me, yes. And it's interesting because as a woman, our lives and choices are different, and we definitely have to consider that when moving forward. I love children, would have loved to have children, but it wasn't like my end-all be-all. So I just sort of lived my life and had fun and traveled and did all this cool stuff. And I have a healthy relationship with my friends. I always make time for them. I always go home and see my family. But it's hard because it is so time-consuming. And especially when you're away, it's easy to get caught in the tour bubble, and you just are surrounded by these people that you're around every day on your bus, and they're your people, and that's great. But there's this whole other world that's happening outside. So that was one of the great things about Facebook, is I felt like I was taking my family along with me. So I'm like, this is this cool thing I did today, or this is what I had to eat, or whatever. But for me, getting older, and thinking about those choices, okay, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I'm working 17-hour days, and that's fine, and I could still be doing that. But then an opportunity came my way, and I was like, I had bought my first house, which is huge. And I was so excited, and I ended up being on a tour that was canceled, and I ended up sitting at home for 7 months. This was like basically a year ago. And I was sitting home, and I'm like, oh my God, like I totally dig this, which I had never said that before. When I lived in LA, I couldn't get on a plane fast enough. And then I moved to Nashville, so my whole life changed when I moved to Nashville as well. But yeah, I started thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, I really enjoy being at home. I like hosting dinner parties on a regular basis. I want to have a dog, those kinds of things. And then an opportunity came my way, and I figured, you know what, the road's not going anywhere. So let me swing a bat at this and see if I can do this, and I love it. So it's you can definitely get caught up when you're just so in it. It is definitely hard to balance it sometimes.
Yeah, it's, like you said, the road's not going anywhere. The money is fantastic. I like to be home. I got a wife that I want to go and see and spend time with. And it's crazy because with the production life that I lead, yeah, there's a couple of 9 to 5 days, but they're not often. And, I actually go into 24-hour days at times where we have one client that will regularly rent out a street in San Francisco. And we do install, run the show, and strike the show. And we have to be in at 6 a.m., out at 6 a.m. And nobody goes home until that thing is done. So work-life balance gets a little hairy, even though I am staying home. Technically, I'm not out on the road.
Wow. I think that's important for us to know, too, is just to know that there are some sacrifices that are going to be made, but again, being flexible and fluid throughout your life, knowing where you're at now, Charity, it's like, how long were you on the road for?
Probably about 13 or 14 years, something like that.
Wow.
It doesn't, wow, that's a long time. Like it flew by though.
Yeah.
Just flew by. I would be gone one year that I worked with the Pussycat Dolls. I think I was home collectively day-wise a total of 3 months. And I ended up getting rid of that apartment. I'm like, I might as well just get rid of this place. So I'm spending all this money on this nice apartment, and I'm never home. Like, never. And then when you come home, you're so tired. All of my friends knew, she's home from tour, don't call her for a week. And I would go to the grocery store, and I wouldn't go anywhere for a week. And you just get in this cycle. It's just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want anybody asking me any questions. I don't want to do anything. And, yeah.
Found out who your friends were, though, right? They'll
Absolutely.
Stick by you through that.
No, absolutely, and that's the other thing too. You're gonna go off and do all these great things, and then you've got friends that are doing something else, and it's like, oh, well, you're just being, you're bragging, or not necessarily boasting, but it's like, well, yeah, I was just in China because it's part of my job, and guess what? That's cool, but I'm just talking, if you're talking to me about working at your restaurant, that's you talking about your job, and it's the same as me. And some friendships you will lose because you are doing these wonderful, fantastic things, and they're not, but that's their choice.
Yeah, as long as they're happy.
Yeah.
Right? So if you could credit one aspect of yourself that has most attributed to your success, what would it be?
I'm easy to get along with. I'm pretty laid back.
You are.
And I'm pretty laid back, and I'm very adaptable to my environment, and just very self-aware.
Resiliency and open-heartedness, definitely, or open-mindedness, either way. Heart and mind seem to kind of go together on that, but to be able to put out, even just on the business side of things, when you're putting a proposal out and you just get with a nope, no answer, no reasoning, no nothing. Okay, moving on. And you just got to bounce right from it, Yeah. Next proposal, here we go, And so that resiliency comes into play, and not shutting down, being open to whatever comes your way, I'm not going to say no to an opportunity if I can help it,
So how would you define the word success to you? And and as you define it, would you say it's the same definition that you had 10 years ago?
For me, it was just, I was constantly getting called to work. So to me, that was being successful. It wasn't how much money I was getting paid, but I was rarely out of work. So that to me was successful until I got into the Hall of Fame, and I was like, what? But no, I never really had sort of like this benchmark of what I thought success was. I just wanted to do a job. I just wanted to work in the music industry. So the fact that I even got in there, to me, that's success. But at this point, I measured it by like, wow, you know, I'm constantly getting work. People are recommending me. So to me, that made me feel successful.
The little me was money motivated. Like I said, I wanted to be a millionaire by 30 when I was 5. Now, man, when I get that great show and, you know, like I said, I do a cross spectrum of shows, and I have a bride come up in tears about the job we did on her show. That personal satisfaction of putting out the best product I possibly can at that instant, you know.
Yeah.
And that's all I really need, you know.
Yep.
The money's the cream on the top. It's that happiness and that fulfillment, you know, the thing that drives.
And I think that's an important distinction to make, because, you know, a lot of times when I'm talking to folks that, you know, aren't ready, you know, they're not graduating yet, they'll always say, well, once I graduate and I make X, then I'm successful. I'm like, but that's not success. I mean, because you're looking at it from a position of lack now. Mm-hmm. When you get it, if it's not fulfilling, is that really successful? You know? Because just by what you guys are saying today, you both had careers and you walked away from them. You became successful and still under the moniker of entertainment.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same job.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important to know when you know, we all come here with a goal or a program that we have in mind or a job that we have in mind. And you get out there, or you come here and you realize with underneath that same umbrella, there's all these other jobs that you didn't know about. And the same thing is going to happen once you go out into the workforce. You're going to be working with different people. You're going to be exposed to different things. And you're like, I didn't even know that was a job. You know, there's guys that are out on the road, like IT guys. Like, you know, IT guys love IT stuff, right? But they are like the U2 show, for example. I think they've got like 3 or 4 IT guys. Like, did that IT guy ever think he was going to be touring with U2? Nope, but he is. And there's all these different opportunities that are going to come your way. And I think it's important to know that if you change your mind, it's okay. You came here with that tunnel vision. I want to be X, Y, and Z. And then you get out there. And like for me, I realized that I was better at one thing than what I came here for. And once I made that transition, I was like, it's not that I wasn't happy. It was just like, oh my God, my skill set is so much stronger over here. And so I went and did something else. And I never felt like a failure because I was happy. I'm still working in my field. But I think it's important to know that if you do change your mind, that it's okay.
Good piece of advice. So we're about ready to open it up out here to you guys. But before we do that, I have one last question that I want to ask you guys, and that is, the floor is yours right now. If there is one piece of advice that you could give the people out here tonight or today, what would it be as far as, you know, actually, I'm going to leave it completely open. One piece of advice you guys could give.
Well, the thing I said before was my other one, so I already used that one. You know, it's okay to change your mind, but be smart with your money. A lot of you are going to be freelancers. A lot of you. Save your money because a lot of times it is feast or famine. You're going to be working on a project for 8 months, and then guess what? Maybe you won't, you know, maybe you won't have a gig for a while, or maybe something might cancel, and you can't predict that. There's no compensation for that. So me looking back at my life, there were so many times where I could have put away a lot. I probably could have bought a house when I was 30 instead of 45 if I had been smarter with my money. And when you start making money, you're going to be like, woohoo, here I am. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. Just, if you remember anything from Hall of Fame, remember my voice. And Charity said, you know what, I should probably put some of this away because, you know, rainy days happen. I've had happened twice in my life where I didn't work for at least 7 months and went through, and I had savings. So I was okay. But had I not, and this is when I got older, had I not done that, I would be like, I don't even know what I'm going to do right now. So be smart with your money.
Nice. Good piece of advice. Billy?
Man, that's, I kind of said it earlier, just being open-minded and open-hearted and accepting the things that are offered to you. You know, take opportunities, take chances, especially while you're young, to round out yourself, you know, and learn something you didn't think you ever were going to, you know. I had a student earlier today ask about, should I switch programs? And the consensus of the green room that we were in was like, no, you're a film and video student and you're interested in live sound for concerts. You don't have to switch fields. You don't have to switch degree programs. How many shows now have video walls that need a cameraman, that need a person that knows editing and switching? That
Yeah.
you know,
Oh my
it's
God,
like,
it's all of the lines are crossing, like with
yeah,
technology.
we can all learn so much now. It's great. It's, you know, I've gotten to do so many cool things now because of the initial experience of you know, opening up my heart to audio, you know. So
Great piece of advice. The one thing that I have is what I said earlier too, and that's just remember art is subjective. It's not objective. Don't let somebody's criticism stop you from accomplishing your dream. You know? And I always say this. I say when you stepped foot here and you started, it ceased being a dream. It became a goal. Because goal is reality, a dream is just here. A dream is here. When you start taking action, it's no longer a dream. It's a goal. And now you're taking steps to accomplish that goal. So, at this time, we have a few minutes for questions from the audience. If you have a question for one of our panelists up here, please raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. For those of you joining us online, direct your questions to our online moderator who will try to accommodate any questions you may have. So, do you need my mic? Oh, we have one. Okay, here's a question over here.
How y'all doing?
Good.
My name is Corey Pope. I remember you both mentioning that y'all had to wear a lot of hats. And speaking on behalf of many of the students here, it's a lot of students that's trying to make something happen, you know, before they graduate. They're trying to chase their dream and, you know, become entrepreneurs or whatever they want to be. And they're wearing a lot of hats, doing things by themselves. So, like, how would you, you know, what kind of advice could you give on, like, managing that time, you know, dealing with homework, dealing with life situations, and actually trying to get their business or their creativity off the ground?
calendaring helps. Man, Outlook is my friend a lot. There's a few parts of that. Man, the networking aspect is crucial here. You know, the advice of not only Hall of Famers and graduates, but your peers, people that have faced these situations, your instructors, other instructors that aren't yours. Somebody's going to have that point of view that you're looking for, you know. And it's, you know, when you need help, ask. Don't be afraid to step out and say, I'm struggling here. I need a little help with something. You know, does anyone have the right, not necessarily even the right, but a different point of view from my own? You know?
Yeah, and just time management. I think also too, while you're here, it's easy. You're hustling, trying to make things happen, and you're going to school, but you got to also remember to take care of yourself. And that if you're not healthy in the heart and the mind and the body, none of that stuff's gonna work. So I think it's just time management, working with your peers. Like I was telling one of the girls the other day, and I'm like, well, you have all these creative people here. Like you could be mixing someone's band. I'm sure there's plenty of musicians here. Like you want to start mixing, get with one of the bands and do the projects, which I'm sure is something that happens here as well. But it's like you can do that on your own as well. So it's just you have such a great pool to pull from right here on campus, and just get your hustle on, but take care of yourself.
Are you undergrad or grad? Undergrad? Yeah. Take my class. Go to graduate school here. Take my class. I'll teach you. Okay, we're over there.
Hi, you guys. My name's Art West. I'm a recording art student here, undergrad. A question for the both of you. Those moments when you were at your lowest or felt like you had nothing coming or nothing going for you, what were your motivating factors or that one thing that told you to keep your eye on the sparrow?
Once again, I'll just say I just had faith that everything was going to be okay. Like, on a little side note, there was a time where I was really, really struggling. One of the things that before I came to Full Sail, I had a full-time job. I was still living at home, but I had a full-time job. You know, I had a few little bills and stuff like that, a few like stupid credit cards that you get when you're young and you're just not so smart. But I went from working a full-time job. My mother supported me financially as far as paying my bills while I was at Full Sail. And then I went to California and was working minimum wage. And just the bills were piling up. And I wouldn't ask for help. Ended up ruining my credit. But I didn't care because I was like, oh, I'm going to do all these wonderful things. But I was prideful at one point in my life, and when I should have asked for help, and I didn't. And it ended up hurting me quite a bit. But I learned from that particular experience to never let that happen again. So I had faith that everything was going to be okay, but I knew that if it was looking like it wasn't, that I could always go and ask my family for help. So just knowing that I had that foundation made it okay for me.
Kind of similar in the sense of having that faith, but really looking at myself and what my desires were going to be, you know. And even if I stepped away from the world of entertainment for a minute, it was always the path. It just was, how was I going to take that path? Or was I going to go, you know, over a bridge or under the water? Whatever I was going to do, I just needed to figure out what my vehicle was.
So you mentioned the importance of saving money. Gustavo Almanza Vargas in audio production wants to know, in your experience, what might be the best way to save money, if you have any tips or
I mean, when you're working freelance, if you're not getting a regular paycheck, when I worked at Westlake, I just did automatic transfers. Like, just go over here and stay here. But that's just it. Even on my bank now, every month, a certain amount of money comes out of my checking account and goes into my savings, so I don't have to do it myself. So that's a great way to do it, because then you don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything. So just set it up, and just whatever amount you're comfortable with, no matter how big or small it is, just every month that's going to go over here, and you don't touch that until you have to.
I agree 100%. Automate it. If you take your hands off of it and make sure that it's happening, you know, on its own, then that money always goes there. Because especially as a freelancer, when you've got your own health insurance, taxes can ruin you if you're not being careful with that stuff. So you got to make sure you're putting away the right amount of money, because otherwise end of the year comes and it hurts real bad.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I'm going to chime in for that and just also say, when you get into this field, there are certain things that you can write off. So sometimes it's actually better to pay a professional to do your taxes for you than to just try to do it by yourself.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that for years.
Same
Because
here.
when they know, and
Yeah.
you can write this off, and you can write, and you're like, what? I'm allowed to write that off?
Yep.
I was a professional actor for many years. I was able to write off. I don't get them now, but I used to get haircuts. And I used to be able to write off my haircuts because I had to have a certain length of hair for the job that I was doing as an actor. So I could write that off. Percentage of my cable bill I was allowed to write off.
Yep.
I mean, that stuff, it's hard to do on your own, but you hire a professional, that's
It's
certainly
worth
going
the
to help
money.
you out.
Definitely worth the money.
Yep.
All right, so want to thank you guys so much for taking time to talk with us. My question is, during the times where you're trying to rise up in your career, there are going to be times where you look at everybody around you. They're kind of telling you to, you should be doing this, should be doing that. There's just like they kind of bring you down, or as Professor says in his class, they're shoulda, coulda, wouldas. They actually they make fun of you for what you want to do, but at the end of the day, they wish they could do it. So how do you stay motivated and really kind of block those people out, but at the same time letting your actions and your career and your happiness kind of silence your critics?
I surround myself with good people. I've been lucky. Everybody was so supportive. Like, I have friends that I grew up with that work at grocery stores, and they're fine. They just want to have their family, and they were excited and motivated for me to do what I do. So I was fortunate I didn't have any of those kind of people in my life. And I would say if you do, then, they'll weed themselves out. Just surround yourself with good people.
Cut them loose, definitely.
Cut them loose.
You kind of answered it in your own way through the question. I'm trying to think of that last part that you said. What was the last portion of it? Exactly.
There you go. That's a quote.
Your success is yours, not theirs. And
they're the first ones that are going to be bragging when you are successful as well.
My friend does this. This is so
and he's
awesome.
currently in my class.
Yeah.
I know.
But I mean, you gave us your answer right there. It's, your success and your happiness will silence all of that. It's not needed. It's not a part of your world,
Oh, in the back up there, okay.
I know that you guys have toured a lot, and you guys have a lot of experience in that, and I want to tour. That's what I dream about. So the question I wanted to ask is that, what is your advice while working with the local crew over there, especially in international tours where you might have a language barrier or something? And this actually happened with us in one of our live labs, where it was a salsa band, and what happened was we couldn't communicate properly, and we had to use someone to translate between. And then what happened was rehearsal went a bit late, and we got delayed a bit, and things started to fall apart. What is your best advice while
I can tell you, whenever I've traveled overseas, we have a translator. I did a 6-week tour of Southeast Asia, and we just had several translators that were out on the floor. And especially with stagehands, a lot of those guys, if you're a local guy, this guy's a rigging guy, this guy's an audio, so they sort of know what is expected of them. But we have translators out on the floor that are just translating as needed.
What she said.
And that's for you people who speak multiple languages, that's another way to get yourself into a gig as a translator, because that's huge, being able to speak more than one language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I always have students that are international that sit in my class, and their first thing they'll say, "I'm sorry for my English." I'm like, "Don't be sorry for your English. If I was in your country, I would have no idea what's going on.
Right?
You're kicking butt here right now. You're speaking a different language, and you're in, post-secondary school right now, getting a degree. Don't apologize for that. You should be proud of that."
Yep.
Hi, I'm Rachel, I'm a film student. I'm trying to collide two of my passions together, massage therapy and film. And I kind of run into some kind of barriers, but I went a different route. I want to ask you guys, how often you guys think outside the box?
There's a box.
Right?
Yes.
That's the perfect. You just
There is
nail.
no
You
box.
just nail that right there. I mean, you have to be when you talked about it being creative and being a tour manager is not a creative job. It is, because when things go sideways, you got to create ways to get something done, no matter what that is. Whether it's the weather's bad and you got to get all these people from point A to point B, and the airport's closed and all that. So you just got to be able to adapt and think outside the box, because there isn't one.
Mm-hmm. Our tour managers will be our lighthouses. Everyone is looking for who knows what's going on. It's your tour manager. They've got the keys to the castle wherever that castle drives off to. It's, there's no box. There are rules to physically, how something works. Signal flow is a box of sorts, but that's about it.
I always tell my students, I say, don't be sheep, because sheep simply follow the sheep in front of them. That's why they have a sheep herder. If a sheep falls off the cliff, the rest of them go, bam, bam, bam. They all fall off the cliff. They do. Don't be sheep, right? Because that's the box, right? So if you're putting two passions together that's never been done before, that's an innovator. Mm-hmm. That's an innovator. Where are we at? Oh, right over there.
My name is Hugh Dunbar. I'm a computer animation major. Well, I'm an undergrad. This question isn't particularly for me because I'm pretty open with people, but what would you say would be the best way for somebody who is socially awkward to be able to interact and network with others?
You know, I think with most things, it's just doing. You know, I think if you're socially awkward, the more you put yourself outside of your comfort zone, the easier it's going to be. And for whatever that social awkwardness might be, whether it's you don't like the way that your voice sounds or there's something about you, you know, give people the opportunity, give them the benefit of the doubt. And usually I would like to think that people will be kind and receptive. I know for me, I'm really good at picking up on stuff like that and then making an effort to try to make that person feel comfortable. But I definitely feel like kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone and just putting yourself out there, the more you do it, the easier it's going to become.
Yeah, frequent exposure definitely is crucial. I had a thought and it ran away. You know, we're all in our own heads at times. We're all a little introspective. When you're having a social anxiety, sometimes that's our sneaky little egos not wanting to get hurt or something. It's a fear that you can just step right on and squash it. You know, most people aren't going to hurt you. Most of us are all loving, caring, artistic people that are here for each other and here to try and help build each other up. So let that happen. You know?
Also, speak through your work. Speak through your work. People admire somebody who not only talks the talk, but walks the walk. So if you're speaking through your work, people are going to see that, and that's going to help you along the way as well. In the front.
Okay. Hi, my name is Caitlin Hughes. I'm a computer animation major, and I'm actually an online student. So I had a question about networking. When you don't live in a place where you can, you know, just go to a studio or go to Los Angeles or go to class and your professor has worked for like EA or something, what would you recommend as far as like getting your name out there and to the point where people know who you are in, you know, when you're pretty much stuck not in the right area?
Social media that's what it's for, you know. There's so many forums and LinkedIn and pages that are specific to whatever it is that you do or whatever it is that you love. I mean, that's, you know, if you can't geographically be where the people are, then be there virtually.
Yeah, there's a lot of places to display your artwork and your talent and your skills. There are companies that allow people to work remotely, and I think it's Grant works anywhere in the world, you know, and he can take his company and do what he's got to do in Singapore to Malaysia to Africa, wherever, because, you know, it's that digital world now. We're all getting connected, and well, at this point we are all connected, but yeah. You know, so you're not limited by your geographic location. You know, just like you're going to school, you found a way to get the education you're looking for. You know, you just keep that path going. You know, you have online classmates. You are now meeting some of your other, you know, peers. So make those connections, talk to them, get to know them the best you can while you're here, and keep in contact with them.
Follow-up question?
Actually, I'm first.
You want to defer? Okay.
I'm 6 months through my master's program for film, and I had a question about internships. How did you guys either seek out, or how many did you do while you were here, trying to work and balance everything with life, school, and an internship at the same time?
I did one. I would work like different places would call here, like to say, oh, we're going to be shooting some stuff at Disney. We need, you know, some grips, or not grips, but just like a PA or something like that. So I would do little things like that. I didn't do a formal internship until after I graduated, and it was something that came through career development. But that's fortunately, when I went to Westlake, they were hiring. They weren't. You didn't have to start as an intern, so I was fortunate in that sense. But I just did that one for 3 months at MGM.
Similar story. I mean, like I said, I had worked at Disney for 10 years mixing already, so I actually worked through school right up till the final portion of the recording arts degree. And then at that point, career development kind of helped me steer my way towards a studio that I could, get into. And they're a big resource. And I always recommend people put themselves out there first, but know that they're there. If you're starting to flounder a little bit and you're like, I don't know which way to take this, use the career development. They're there, and if I lose my job when I get back, I would call career development right now.
No, I told Tammy the same thing today, that alumni that have been away from school and haven't been back like we have, that haven't seen the place since they graduated, that they don't even realize. This was a friend of mine, actually, who's freelance and constantly in between jobs. Like, dude, you can just call up and try to get a gig. Like, I just had like this epiphanal moment this morning. I was like, oh my God, I got to tell Quayle he could just call up, and see if there's any work. Because he's probably, once he graduated, forgot all about this place.
That's right.
So
what's the lesson there? Career development. Like, for real? Seriously? And don't wait for them to contact you. Don't wait till it's close to your graduation date. Wherever you're at in the program right now, hey, I know I'm not supposed to meet you for another 3-4 months, but I just wanted to let you know who I am.
it was called placement when I went to school. I lived there. They were probably sick of me.
But that's so important, because think about it. In networking, we're going to hire you because we know who you are, right? Well, they're going to be sending out information about some jobs, and they're going to, oh, you know what? John was just here. He's perfect for this. They're going to think of you. So, get out there as much as you can. That's another form of networking. And this place rocks with that. I'm telling you, I graduated from one of those normal schools. There is no such thing as that. They were like, you at the door now. See ya. Don't forget to pay us.
Right?
Every month.
Right? But there was no like, hey, we got some jobs for you. I'm like, what is this thing called? This is awesome. I wish I had that. So you do take advantage of it for sure.
Okay, so I remember you guys talking that you sent your resumes to a lot of different places. Would you guys say it's better to throw your resumes all over the place, like to every single thing that's possibly open, or would it be better to just look for jobs surrounding your field?
I mean, I would obviously start with your field first. Like, just blanket to every company, that does what you want to do all that. Then if that's not biting, then you can sort of, go outside that bubble and just sort of fan it out. But I'm like, what's it going to hurt? It's a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. Is it still paper?
It's probably not even still paper at this point.
No, it's kind of a pain threshold point. It's like, I'm going to start out being very specific. If I don't get any bites, I'm going to open that up a little bit more. Still nothing's happening, I'm going to open it up more. And I'm going to start calling those contacts that I have and find out, anybody in my class, very entrepreneurial, and then they started their own studio, maybe. There's a lot of stories of that here at Full Sail. When I think of what Nate's done since he graduated, Nate Howe started his own company, and he brings on, interns all the time. So there's amazing resources sitting right around you.
I won Hall of Fame. This young lady came up to me during the actual ceremony and was asking me all these questions. She wanted a tour, and I'm like, well, have you talked to Leon? They're like, oh, no. Like, she didn't know who Leon was. I'm like, Leon does the staffing for Claire Brothers. Like, you don't need to be talking to me right now. Well, I'm telling you to go talk to him. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I'm like, did a girl come up to you? He goes, and she did. But we come back here, we all do different things. A lot of these guys have got their own companies. Hit them up. A lot of them hire from here or get interns from here. And everybody's here because we want to be here. Everybody's approachable. Take the opportunity. Trust me. You won't regret it.
You got to do the work, though. You got to approach them. They don't have time to talk to everybody. They're not going to run and shake every person's hand and stuff. So if you've got something that you're wanting to express, you need to make that move. You know, you need to be putting yourself out there.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Who's right here?
So, what do you do when you're overwhelmed that even 24 hours a day aren't enough, and you start losing track of your progression and your personal life, basically, and everything? Although it's not a problem of just scheduling or just, it's a problem of just you taking on too much, more than you can handle without even realizing it.
I can tell you, this happened to me just recently. I had to go to LA for the NAMM convention, so I was out of my office for 4 days, which I didn't think was going to be a big deal because I was with my company, so I was working. And I met a lot of people at NAMM, and it was really, really busy. And at one point, I came home, and I was so overwhelmed. I had so much stuff to do that I was like, not getting anxiety, but I was like, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin right now because I have so much stuff to do. And I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a moment. I'm going to go to my Pilates class. I'm going to turn off my phone and just take a moment for me to just sort of bring it down. And then I just sat down and I started prioritizing things. Like, okay, these are things I have to get done now. This is the date for these things that I need to get done. And once I got it, sort of saw it on a piece of paper, it was like, okay, now I can do this. But sometimes you just have to take a moment for yourself, and that's okay. Just turn the phone off and just get focused, take a nap, go for a walk, do whatever, and just sort of like calm yourself down.
That prioritization is definitely where you would be at. If you've taken on too many tasks, then you got to figure out which one has to be done first, second, third. And I like that about taking the time for yourself, because that's what this week is for me. You guys recharge me, so this is my phone off week.
No, I was telling someone, I'm like, this is like basically my vacation.
Yeah.
Every year I know I can come here, I get to meet a bunch of students, I get to see my friends and hang out and talk and do stupid stuff. And yeah, I look forward to this every single year.
I just found out last
love,
year.
Right? Much love is going on today. Much love, right?
Got the feels.
Yeah. I take a week of vacation just for this. I was like, I am off.
That's awesome, though. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming out today, and I want to especially thank Charity and Billy for their knowledge and information. Let's give them a round of applause, you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And as they say, that's all, folks.
That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
really.
you.